One of Sean Combs' latest girlfriends takes the stand under a pseudonym. On the stand, her name is Jane Doe, and she is about to tell the jurors about her relationship with Sean Combs, with Diddy, up until his arrest. So all of the previous witnesses that we've had, most of them, like Diddy and Cassie broke up in 2018. That's like 7 years ago. Same thing with Mia. They stopped working together for a very long time. I mean, it's been almost a decade. With Jane, she has been there up until his arrest. She was dating him November of 2023 when Cassie Ventura drops her lawsuit.
Okay.
Then in 2024, I believe it was May, the CNN video drops.
CNN video is the hotel.
Yes, the Intercontinental Hotel video of Sean Combs assaulting Cassie. Jane is actually in Sean Combs' bed. They're both asleep. The sons come knocking on the door and they're like, you gotta come downstairs. Something is happening. They all go downstairs. There's like a massive huddle. Everybody is like, the energy is so tense. Jane says she wants to throw up because this is her first time watching the video as well. She's there. And then 6 months later, September of 2024, Diddy goes to New York City, and this is when he gets arrested in New York City. Jane is actually about to fly from LA to New York City to meet up with him. So clearly, there are so many moments that people are gonna wanna know more about because, what do you mean? This is like one of his latest girlfriends. She was with him up until his arrest. But there's this one moment in court where it just feels like the entire courtroom kind of doesn't know how to respond to the things that Jane is saying on the stand. I mean, it's such a big part of the case since day one, but nobody talks about this part on a deep level. It feels like a giant elephant in the room, which is, we know what Diddy has done, but why does Diddy like to watch other men have intimate relations with his girlfriends? I mean, so much so that he clearly puts his girlfriends in emotionally tough positions where it's alleged that they don't really consent to it, that they're coerced into doing these things. It's like a fixation that he has. He needs to watch this happen for days at a time, once a week. This activity takes up like what, 15, 20% of his life? If all the testimonies on the stand have been accurate? I mean, the question of whether or not all parties consented, whether or not this is legal, that's up to the 12 jurors to decide. But the question of why he's even into this is just kind of always like lingering in the air. People talk about it in the hallways, but everyone's like, I don't really know. I mean, maybe it's like a kink, I guess. Like, it's just lingering. Even at the hotel nights, Jane, so she doesn't call them freak-offs. He would call them hotel nights with her. And then with other assistants, he started calling them king nights. So there's different variations. Freak-offs, hotel nights, king nights. Jane says that she would have to engage in certain conversations with the men that were invited. Combs would be watching, and you know, she's asked, what are some examples of the things you would say in these rooms at hotel nights during these 3 years or 3.5 years? I would say a lot of cheating role play, that they would be, that Sean left town and I'm all alone with me and whoever, and I'm sneaking in this entertainer and it's just me and this entertainer, and I'm just fantasy talking about how Sean's on a plane and I couldn't wait to get this entertainer all alone to myself, etc.
Meanwhile, he's in the corner.
Yes, and one of the entertainers actually, well, many of them, they say that he's very distracting in the corner because he's very loud with his self-pleasuring movements. So she's like having all this fantasy role play talk while he's just like in the corner. And when that's not happening, Jane says, even when they were not at the hotel nights, aka the freak-offs, Combs would ask Jane to FaceTime the entertainers, have intimate video calls with them, while she secretly screen mirrors her phone onto a giant TV for Combs to watch. So I'm assuming it's like her video calling these entertainers being like, he's out of town, let's have a steamy video call, and he's like watching on the TV.
And does the entertainer know that this is,
She said specifically she did not tell them because she wanted them to feel comfortable. Sometimes Sean Combs would just ask her to ask the entertainer for pictures of their private parts so that they could both look at them. Jane says about these pictures, Combs would say like, get them to send you something, or FaceTime them, or get them to send you something, and so they would. Jane says in the middle of their relationship, sometime in 2022, she actually comes across a word because she's trying to figure out what their relationship is at this point and why Combs wants her so desperately to engage in these activities with other men in front of him, and she doesn't even enjoy it. She says, I came upon a word that was called cuck, and the whole gallery, I mean, literally there are members of the press coming to the edge of the seat now. They're like leaning forward because she has such a soft-spoken voice. Combs, on the other hand, he's not happy. He does not like this line of questioning. He is frozen, and then he starts shaking his head ever so slightly, like, no. Jane is further asked, what is that? That is a man who is in a relationship with a woman, and he's turned on watching his woman have sex with another man. I was just trying to kind of deep dive on all the reasons why they had derived so much pleasure from watching their women be with other men. I just wanted to know why my partner wanted so many of these nights and what was driving him. I was just trying to find an understanding of it that he wasn't vocal about.
Is she being questioned by the prosecutor or by the defense attorney?
The defense.
Oh.
So what was your understanding of what you learned? I mean, there was a multiple list of reasons. One of them was that the cuck derives pleasure seeing his woman receive pleasure from the other man, and a few other things. It feels like Jane does not want to say what other things. What are some of the other things? Some of the other things were that cucks could also have a bi-curiosity, that they're too ashamed to experience themselves, and so they use the woman to venture out in this curiosity without actually doing the act itself, which I felt like a lot of dots were connecting in the gallery because it makes sense. Now, this is obviously presumptuous. We don't know Combs' sexuality, but it would make sense psychologically that if he does not want to engage in any sort of loving commitment with Jane after these hotel nights, perhaps it's because he wants to be Jane. He's jealous. So there was like lots of dots connecting in the gallery. A lot of people were whispering about it in the hallways after of all of their theories, but we're not psychologists, so we don't really know.
Wait,
but these are moments, yes.
What, you say he doesn't want to engage with Jane after these hotel nights?
He will have intimate relations, but he will not have romantic moments with Jane, which is all she was wanting for. So some people are theorizing, we're armchair psychologists in the hallways of this courthouse. They're just saying maybe it's because he wants to be Jane. He doesn't love Jane. He wants to be Jane. You know, he wants to be in that position. Others are saying, no, it's more degradation. Like he just wants to humiliate women. So it's kind of up in the air. Nobody really knows. And a lot of the jurors, as Jane is saying this, they're snapping their heads to look at Sean Combs, and he is statuesque. None of his family and friends have any sort of response either. Would voyeurism or escapism also fit this fantasy? Jane thinks about it for a second and says, no, I think I would use the word cock for him more so. A few of the people in the gallery cock their heads a little bit. But what's even more interesting in this is this line of questioning, like I said, is not coming from the government. This line of questioning is coming from Tenny Garagos, Combs' own counsel. If Sean Combs looks upset about where this is going, why is Tenny Garagos asking Jane this? It doesn't seem like Sean Combs wants to associate his lifestyle with those terms. And I say lifestyle loosely because this is a trafficking case. But perhaps it's embarrassing. But it might be the best shot that the defense has. The defense needs the jurors to believe that Sean Combs is not a monster. He is not committing crimes. He is just a cuck. We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the New York Immigration Coalition. They are an umbrella policy and advocacy organization that represents over 200 immigrant and refugee right groups throughout New York. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support. Some of the quotes and statements have been shortened, combined, and condensed for brevity. Today's episode has a few content disclaimers regarding mentions of domestic violence, physical and sexual assault, and trafficking, so please take a break if you need to. You guys also know the drill. At the time of filming this episode, Diddy is innocent until proven guilty, and all the charges that he's been indicted on are still alleged. Any and all observations from me, my researchers, have happened in real time inside the courtroom, and they are just observable actions. I'm like, hey, I saw Sean Combs scratch his head and mouth these words to somebody. That doesn't mean I know the intention behind these actions. That doesn't mean I know what Sean Combs is thinking. That doesn't mean I know if he's guilty or innocent of the charges that he has been charged with. It just means I saw him scratch his head. So with that being said, let's get into it. Where to find the gold of all the powerful? One secures the gold of the spirit when he finds himself. When he finds himself, he finds freedom and all riches, achievement, and prosperity. That is literally what Sean Combs is reading in court. He walks into the courtroom most days now with a new little book. He has ditched the Bible. He has replaced it with this bright red book with this orange circle in the middle. It was giving a little bit culty. Nobody could get a good read on it.
Wait, so his like truth journal is gone too?
No, he has his truth journal. He's got this little accordion file thing
like
that opens
folder.
up, and he's got the little truth journal. He hasn't been whipping it out as obviously these days. I haven't seen truth written on there since the first 2 times. Yeah, now he just like, he shoves it in, he did the little sleeping thing, and then now I'm like, it's either out already, but like we get there before he gets there. It's weird. So nobody could get a good read on this book. And I'm like scooching to the side, squinting. I'm like trying to see if I could smuggle in a magnifying glass, but I also don't want to get kicked out of the courtroom. I'm trying to see what the hell this book is. I come home, Google it, bright red cover, orange circle in the middle. There are certain quotes in the book that read, thoughts have a creative of controlling force in the exact ratio of their constancy, intensity, and power, comparable to the wavelength and wattage of a broadcast system. What you exhibit outwardly, you are inwardly. You are the product of your own thoughts. What you believe yourself to be, you are. Desire is the generating power of all human action, and without it, no one can get very far.
Okay.
I just like, maybe the part that he takes a little too seriously is the part in the book that reads, success is a matter of never ceasing application. You must forever work at it diligently, otherwise it takes wings and flies away, which there have been never ceasing applications from the defense team. So maybe he's taken it too literally. The book also has special appearances to talk about how persuasive Hitler, Stalin, and Japanese warlords are. So there's that. That is the magic of believing. While I'm sure it's a great book with a lot of great points made throughout, it is interesting that this is the book that Sean Combs decides to pick up mid-trial. I mean, perhaps he genuinely loves the book and he's just in his studious era. Or it's the intellectual defendant who has a desire to do the inner work ploy. Because at one point he starts reading the book mid-testimony, and I was trying to count the seconds of how long he's on one page, because I'm like, I don't believe this man is actually reading this book right now, because I can barely read books when I'm so immersed into a case that have nothing to do with the case, because my brain is just not registering it. There are more high stakes things going on, and he is the defendant of his own criminal federal trial, and you're reading a book in the middle of the court day. So I'm like, I don't think you're reading. I think this is fake. So I'm counting all the seconds on how long he's on the same page, which I will say was a very long time. And one of his attorneys whispers something. He puts the book away and then slams his right cheek into his right hand like a little child that just got scolded. It's very interesting.
So it's a book about like a lot of attraction.
Yes.
Almost.
Manifestation. I keep interrupting you today. I'm sorry. No. About manifestation. Yeah. Now, the rest of the defense team are also in a funk. Donaldson is walking into the courtroom just talking to himself. Usually he's engaged with everyone in the room. He's a socializer, but today he's muttering to himself, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. He says it twice to nobody in particular. He looks like he's aged 2 years in the past, 48 hours. Brian Steele, on the other hand, he's having a good time. Him and Nicole Westmoreland, they're like, we're flying back home probably in a month. I'm excited, okay? Brian Steele is texting. His font is literally the largest setting that you can place on the iPhone. It's massive. I'm like, sir, you are so lucky we're not trying to read your text messages right now. It's giving dad vibes. And when Nicole Westmoreland walks in with a Prada bag, he greets her, Nicole West money.
Who?
Brian Steele greets Nicole Westmoreland as Nicole Westmoney, and now we can't not call her Nicole Westmoney. It just rolls off.
So they're pretty relaxed.
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised that they're so relaxed, because Brian Steele has been, I think, unconsensually taking the villain role of this trial. I can see that he seems very depresso during those days, which makes sense, because I was talking to someone who used to be an attorney, and they were like, that's kind of what happens when you have such a big defense team. You don't want every defense member to be a bad guy. You need one bad guy that does all the bad stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you're saying that every day you go in there, all these attorneys total different energy every single day.
Every single day. It's to the point where if we have a witness on the stand, the press pews are kind of calculating who's going to do the cross-examination. Because sometimes Nicole Westmoney walks in, just like bright colors or like very tight fitted clothes. And when you're standing on the lectern, everyone is staring at your entire figure, the back of your figure. So sometimes when she's wearing super tight fitted clothes, the press pews are like, nah, she's not doing the cross today. So everybody's got a different energy. Brian Steele, anytime he's talking or doing a cross, he is in his own world. He does not look like he is registering his environment. When he's not, he's like giddy. Nicole Westmoney's walking in. He's having a good time.
Interesting. And this is like day one of Jane's.
Yes.
Okay. So, and it's going to last 5 days, like 6 days.
Now, Father Arun is also not immune to dad vibes either. Everybody's just becoming more of a dad as the trial progresses. During one part where jurors are not present, they're going over summary charts. Summary charts are given to the jurors at the very end, and it's like compiled evidence from both sides. He says, can we cut down this exhibit so that it achieves that purpose without being 49 pages worth of text messages? He's talking to the government, some of which appear to be for non-illicit purposes, such as the text message on April 23rd, 2023, or on spending money on flowers. Prosecutor Slavic stands up. Your Honor, flower refers to marijuana. And there's like a little pause, and the judge and the gallery, they're all giggling at the miscommunication. And the judge is like such a champ. He's like, I stand corrected. Now, Jason Driscoll, Raspberry Air, has also been on the come up recently. He has been invited into Combs's inner circle.
He's like the youngest attorney on his side that's been quiet this whole time.
Okay, to give you an idea, Mark Agnifilo and Tenny Garagos are founding partners of the law firm. Which founding partners, you're like the top dog. Alexandra Shapiro is a founding partner of her law firm. Brian Steele, I think him and his wife run his own law firm. Same with Nicole Westmoney and Donaldson. The only random person is Anna Esteveo is also part of a firm, but I think she's like a partner. She's been kind of quiet recently. But Jason Driscoll is an associate at Alexandra Shapiro's firm. And he just looks so young compared to the rest of the defense team members who all have like white hairs, except for maybe Tenny Garagos and Shapiro and Esteveo. He looks like he was born yesterday in the best way possible. So we're sitting there like, he's got to be doing something right, because Alexandra Shapiro does not seem like the type of bring your son to work day type of person. She's only going to put someone on her team in this case if she thinks that they're worth it. So we thought he's a dark horse, like something's going to happen. He's going to be on the come up, and we were right. He's been talking a lot lately. He went up against Comey recently, and the judge sided in his favor. Although I do think that maybe the deck was stacked better for him. And it's very interesting. Every morning he gets a more passionate dap up from Diddy now. He's been taking a lot more. And at one point when the judge does side with Jason Driscoll, Raspberry Air, he whips around. And my researcher was like dying at this because he does not smile. It's not goofy. He literally just gives like the most serious wink at Diddy. And Diddy and Mark Agnifilo are like, damn, we were not expecting this kid. It's very interesting, their interactions to watch. Even when he is talking to the judge, everybody's looking at him, like waiting to see how he handles it. He's also brought his wife, I believe, who sits with the friends and families of Sean Combs. And at one point, he's dapping up Diddy in the morning. Diddy, he's like, oh, I think my wife is over there. I don't really hear what Jason Driscoll is saying, but they point towards the family and friends. And the woman who comes with Jason Driscoll is waving at Diddy. And Diddy is like dramatically pointing at Driscoll, being like, he's good, thumbs up, he's good. But he is still not the smoothest attorney. Some mornings he will miss the dap up with Combs, so they just kind of awkwardly hug instead. Also, there's this awkward moment when he first starts talking and the court reporter doesn't know who the hell he is. So he's like, who are you?
The court reporter.
Yeah, and he's got to be like, Jason Driscoll. He handled it very well, but it is very interesting. But I don't know how long he's going to stay in Diddy's favor, because here's the thing with Diddy. Anytime any one of his attorneys doesn't get what Diddy wants, he just looks at them and kind of sighs. Like, this is so disappointing. I mean, they don't know a moment of peace, these defense attorneys. Mark Agnifilo is drinking water because all of them are getting sick, and Diddy is literally analyzing him drinking water, watching him fully turn to the side. Just watching him drink water. He can't even stay hydrated in solitude. Alexandra Shapiro, though, I will say, she does appear upset with everyone. She always looks stressed. She always is kind of scowling. She gives me tough love type of vibes, though, because anytime Driscoll loses a case with the judge and is trying to get something into evidence or not get into evidence, judge doesn't side with him. The rest of the defense team, they look disappointed. Alexandra Shapiro always mouths a very stern, good job. But it's like so aggressive. It just feels like so tough love.
She's basically his boss, right?
Yeah. And so even when he doesn't get the judge on his side, she's like, good job. But it's like very intense. I'm like, what is happening? There's so many different dynamics. This would make me cry. Alexandra Shapiro is also walking around with a massive tissue box. She has been going row by row, passing out tissues to each of the defense attorneys, who grab one and they just start honking their noses into it. Every single person in this courtroom is sick again. A few days ago, there is a sketch artist that sits right behind the defense table. So there's two that sit on the right side in front of us. Sometimes one of them doesn't show up. Jane is always there. Then on the left side, there's another sketch artist, and she sits right behind Diddy and the defense team. She's in the very first row of the pew. She starts coughing, and it sounds, I'm not gonna lie, it sounds very juicy. Right in front of her is Combs, the defense team. Right behind her in the pew is the Combs family.
So she's sandwiched between Combs and Combs family.
Yes. Now, to be fair, there's another seat like directly behind Combs that's not a pew, that's not at the table. Two U.S. Marshals sit there.
Okay.
But they're just like watching Combs, right? So like she's like coughing on top of the U.S. Marshal, and it's just like going straight to Combs, and then behind her Combs family, and like mid-testimony, she'll be hacking up a storm. The Combs family, I mean, at this point, some of the press pews were confused at how animated it was. Every time the sketch artist coughs, Combs family row, it's like a roller coaster. In unison, they back all the way up like they're accelerating on a Disney roller coaster ride.
Can you tell them who's on there?
Yes, so you've got Janice Combs, you've got Justin Combs. Now, it depends on the day. Sometimes it's just Justin. Other times it's Justin and Christian. And then other times it's Justin, Christian, and Quincy. The daughters have not shown up since the beginning of the trial. And then you've got Dana Tran, who is the mother of the youngest Combs child, Baby Love, who is, I believe, only like 2 years old. So they're all sitting there and they're just like leaning back in unison like a roller coaster ride, trying to get away from like the sprays of the cough. It's just so interesting, to the point where even Justin is giggling at his grandma because of the way that they're trying to move away from these coughs. They all start masking up too, because it's that bad. Even a few of the older jurors have started wearing masks after this. Court has to break for one moment because a juror is coughing so much they have to bring her water and cough drops. And so I'm telling you, everybody is getting sick. The entire defense team is coughing. It's like a nightmare tissue rotation. And we have never seen Sean Combs this sick. He's so congested all week. He's just aggressively rubbing his eyes and his scalp. He's like rubbing his eyes like he's trying to take out his retinas. He's itching his entire scalp. I think it's trying to soothe maybe sinus pressure. And he likes to pop cough drops into his mouth, but he chews them. I just know that this man bites his ice cream. That's all I have to say. And it's so interesting that there's this much going on during the testimony days. Mark Agnifilo has also gotten a new haircut, and I say this with so much respect because I was writing this down in my notes, and so were the researchers independently of me. Because, again, I'm very terrified. Mark seems very intense, but he also seems like the type that would let his wife cut his hair. He walks in new haircut, and my first thought was, I feel like Karen cut his hair. That was the feeling. And then later, a few days later, one of my researchers is outside. Mark walks into the courtroom. He's interacting with some of the press members a little bit, and he just shouts at someone complimenting his haircut, "My wife cut it." So my suspicions were correct. His whole energy is like the kid that gets a new haircut, comes into school and wants everyone to compliment his new haircut. He's like bouncing around. And I'm like, what is happening? How were they able to compartmentalize all of these things that are happening in the courtroom? He's also still filibustering. So last we heard was that Combs got yelled at by the judge for nodding at the jurors. That lasted like a day. He's back to nodding again. But Mark Agnifilo, Brian Steele, they're standing behind their client. And Mark is saying, one of the things I wanted to say, he's saying this to the judge, I'm a reasonable man, and everyone can, and an approachable one. So if someone, my colleagues from the government, sees something, he's basically saying, I don't know why the government is tattletaling to the judge. They should tell me first. I would encourage them to come to me. I take these things very, very seriously. Now, in terms of what, I didn't see anything. I'm riveted, Your Honor, I'm riveted. Nodding is one of these things where it could be bad intentioned or it could not be bad intentioned. And so I didn't see it. If someone comes to me and says, I might disagree. They might say he's nodding and I might say, so what do you mean? Is that a problem? Or is it not a problem? And maybe it's not a problem. Maybe it is a problem. But without someone coming to me, kind of remedy this, it's a stitch in time saves 9 type thing.
So when he's like talking in this mannerism, right? It's like he's trying to be very like smooth and very like kind of clueless, like type of energy. What is the judge's reaction? Is he like,
okay,
like stop playing with me? Or is he like, all right, I know what you're doing? And
I think it's harder to yell at Agnifilo, the judge, because it's like, I know what you're doing. Like, we all know what you're doing. But I do see that maybe when Brian Steele comes in very hot and slightly aggressive, the judge shuts him down so quick and is like, no. Same with Alexandra Shapiro. They talk a little more aggressively with the judge. The judge is not having it.
I see.
Mark Agnifilo is always like, I mean, maybe it's a problem. Maybe it's not a problem. I didn't see anything. He's almost like, don't blame me. It's very weird.
So in a way, it worked.
Yes.
He usually can get away with some of these things because the way he talks. Okay.
Yeah. That being said, I take this matter very seriously. I've spoken to Mr. Combs. He's assured me he didn't mean anything by it. He was just reacting to the witness on the stand.
So like, judge told him not to nod. He stopped for a day and then he started nodding again. And now the judge is having another conversation?
No.
Oh.
Mark Agnifilo is just bringing it up. Like, maybe the government can just tell me.
Next time, if you see it.
They're basically trying to say we were taken aback that you yelled at Mr. Combs in front of everyone.
Oh, last time.
Yeah.
The time of the judge just kind of told him, I'm going to throw Combs out of here.
Yeah. And the judge is literally staring at Mark like, I get it. But I literally saw him. He says, I saw the interaction myself, and the interaction was inappropriate, and no one would have misunderstood my instruction that I had given about 30 minutes earlier. So I regarded that as being outright defiance of the court's order in that moment as to that one incident. AKA, Father Arun is just not the one. Mm-hmm. So now the dynamics of the attorneys are ever changing. It's so interesting to watch, but a very interesting attorney does make an appearance last week. Cassie's attorney, Doug Wigder, is present again for one day of Jane's testimony.
Huh.
Why?
Yeah.
Jane is a pseudonym, but she is one of Sean Combs' latest girlfriends. And like I said, in fact, when Sean Combs was arrested September 16th of 2024, in the hotel room, Homeland Security found studio lighting, bottles and bottles of baby oil and Astroglide, as well as drugs. Jane was on her way to New York City. Not on the plane, but her plans were to fly to New York City to join him in the hotel, where they would presumably have formerly known as a freak-off, now known as a hotel night. When Jane walks into the courtroom, I saw a lot of people in the gallery kind of crinkle their eyebrows because even though she's testifying under a pseudonym, even in the bathroom before the court day started, people were hypothesizing. We were like, who is it? Is it a celebrity? Is it a celebrity that maybe wasn't so firmly connected in media outlets with Sean Combs, but like maybe they were dating because they're all part of that world? We were thinking all sorts of things. But when she walks in, you could just tell a lot of people don't know who she is. Like almost nobody really knows who she is. She is not a front-facing celebrity. You don't know Jane, don't look for Jane. She walks in kind of playing with her sleeves. She seems a little nervous, but not nearly as terrified as Mia appeared to be. Just general nerves. She gets on the stand and she starts talking, and immediately the jurors are so deep in their notes. And it's interesting because I think it has to do with the timeline with Combs. This feels like so much fresh information. It feels more pertinent to the case. The jurors are taking in this testimony, and even Combs, he has scooched his chair all the way back so he can get a better look at the witness. He scooched it so far back that the U.S. Marshal sitting behind him looks like he's on a Spirit flight now, and Combs does not care. He even taps Mark Agnifilo on the shoulder and asks him to scooch to the right so that he can scooch to the right and get a better look.
At the jurors?
No, at the witness. Because in front of him is a very tall Donaldson. So he's scooching. Maureen Comey is going to be doing the days-long direct examination of Jane. She kind of matches Jane's soft voice just a tad bit. I think she's so good at changing her tone. There is something about Maureen Comey. I think she would be a professional poker player. Like she could. She will shut people down, like the defense team. She will shut them down so quickly, but she never comes off bothered. She never comes off hostile or angry or aggressive or like shaken up. Whereas I think some of the defense attorneys, they seem like they're upset about something all the time. Like, Your Honor, blah, 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 and they're upset. Maureen Comey will be arguing, but she doesn't seem upset. She always, the way she walks into court every day, she's just always kind of shrugging and smiling. Like everything will be falling apart and the prosecutors are looking at her and she just gives them like a small shrug. She's always like, I don't know what the defense is up to. They're kind of dumb. That's her vibe.
Like she got this under control.
Yeah, she's like, let them do whatever they want to do. They're dumb. That's her vibe. But when she talks to Jane, she also has a very soft voice that feels genuine. And I was analyzing this throughout Maureen Comey's direct. A lot of people, they always say, da-da-da-da, right? Da-da-da-da, correct? Maureen Comey asks questions in such a natural way.
She doesn't go for the correct, right? Like the attorney type of questioning.
No, and she's very good with her pacing, very good with her tone. It's very interesting. Like when Jane starts crying, she actually seems sympathetic through her tone without saying anything sympathetic. What names did you call him when you were in a relationship with him? This is pretty much how they start. Jane looks up through her lashes and she smiles and she's got a really soft, dainty voice. Sean, baby, Ernie, Snookums. Like that's kind of her voice. One of the jurors giggles a little bit at the nicknames. I mean, giggle's a strong word. It's like a soft smile. So who are you? Bert. And who is he? Ernie. That's her voice. So like from Sesame Street? Yes. Jane tells the jurors when she first met Sean, this is in like late 2020. So this is very recent. This is 3 years before Cassie files her lawsuit. A lot of the testimonies we've heard are from way back. 2020, we're deep in the Brother Love era. Sean Combs wanted everyone to call him Brother Love starting in 2017, but he really starts going on talk shows around 2020. He releases the Love album in 2023. Jane ends up dating him up until his arrest in 2024. And so, which side note, why is he Brother Love? He says on a talk show, I decided to change my name again. I'm just not who I am before. I'm something different. So my name is Love, aka Brother Love. I will not be answering to Puffy, Diddy, Puff Daddy, or any of my other monikers but Love or Brother Love, okay? Well, the prosecutors are calling him Sean Combs and he's answering, so there's that. Regardless, he is Brother Love. Jane calls him Sean. They meet while Jane is on a girls' trip in Miami in late 2020. Jane gets invited to this girls' trip by a friend of hers, and that friend is dating Combs at the time. So Combs pays for that friend and Jane and a bunch of other girlfriends to go to Miami to have a girls' trip, which it's the way that Sean Combs sits there. Anytime anyone brings up the fact that he paid for something that is not drugs or illegal substances or baby oil, he will look at the jurors like, yeah, I did that. And I'm just like, why? This is so goofy. Like the feds are trying to seize your assets.
Yeah.
No one cares that you paid for a girls' trip. Nevertheless, they are all on this girls' trip. They end up going over to Combs' Miami residence in Star Island one night. And Jen says, we went over there and I just saw Sean and he was really charming, really nice. I was already drawn to him like pretty instantly. He was hospitable, really sweet, really friendly. We had a nice night together. She talks a bit slower and she goes off to use the restroom at one point, bumps into him, and the two of them exchange phone numbers. That's when they give each other nicknames, Ernie and Bert, to save each other in the contacts. Now, Combs is glancing at the jury, again, with the energy of like, do you hear this? Are you writing notes? Because I guess it's not the best look for Jane to be texting her girlfriend's romantic interest whilst on a girls' trip with the girlfriend that's dating Combs.
Wow.
Yeah, sir, you're being charged with trafficking. Like, I don't think the jurors are like, oh my gosh, girl code has been broken. Like, the law could potentially be broken. The beginning of the testimony, aside from a few glances to Comey and perhaps the jury, Combs is very still. He looks sometimes like he's buffering. But Jane explains, while they're still on this girls' trip, Combs starts texting her while they're together, saying things like, I'd like to take you out. Jane says, I was just saying to him that I just felt it was a little complicated in the moment, but like, we'll be in touch. So you were texting during the movie? So all of them had seen a movie in his theater. Yes. And was the girlfriend of yours who was seeing Sean in the relationship with him there as well? Yes. So after the trip, the two of them keep in contact over text. Jane says Combs is pursuing her, asking her to come out to Miami, just her, but she's feeling uncomfortable about it because of her friend still has feelings for Sean. And then it all changes when, quote, my girlfriend ended up getting engaged and she moved overseas and became a fiance. And so I felt that she was okay and that I could potentially entertain this whole Sean thing. Their first date is when she goes back to Miami in January of 2021. He meets her at her hotel room and she says, I remember when I first saw Sean, he walks in the door of the hotel room and he was just like larger than life. He had a very big personality, super charming, very, very passionate, even just in how he speaks and just overall really charming. And he just immediately immersed in conversation with me. Their first date in that hotel room lasts 5 days. 5 days long.
They were in the hotel room for 5 days.
Yes. Which feels kind of like love bombing, but also how do you have so much time? So during the first date that lasts a full business week, they talk about how Jane previously dated someone that Sean Combs was very close to and that he said that's not a problem. Then they talk about the fact that Jane has a child. She's a mother to a child, one child, and her child's father and Combs are not friendly with each other, which made things more complicated. But Sean is like, no, don't even worry about it. And then Jane is like, okay, well, what about my girlfriend that you were dating? And he's like, we weren't even really dating. Like, we were more so like friends. So he's like, don't worry about anything. And they just have a wonderful time. Jane says, we made lots of love. I remember it was amazing. And I remember it was like morning time. And then we decided to go for a walk on the beach. Whenever Jane talks about her past with Combs, it is so fascinating because she appears to be incredibly love-struck. Even now, she says after the first date, she's head over heels for him. And in the beginning, you can kind of feel that most of the people in the courtroom don't really know what to make of it. Because, I mean, she's testifying against him. He's done allegedly very horrible stuff, but she's also saying things like, it was beautiful, we made lots of love, and she seems kind of shy about it as if she seems still in love. And the next month, they end up going to Turks and Caicos as well as the Bahamas. So it's just back to back. He's like wooing her. What do you remember from the time you spent in Turks in February of 2021? I just remember so many lovely things. It was just really us, and so we just had a lot of connection and a lot of time together. As you would assume, just really passionate about one another, lots of attraction. It was very lust-filled. So this is the first trip that she takes ecstasy with Combs. Now, side note, they are there for like a week, more or less, and they do ecstasy 10 times. She says, I remember we were inside the pool and we were drinking and just having a good time. He opens his hand with a pill and he's like, here, take this. It'll just be more fun. Something like that. And so I end up taking the whole thing. Afterwards, she starts feeling like it's hitting too hard. I was walking down the beach with him and then it just hit me. And I just remember I fell to the ground and I started grabbing the sand and throwing the sand and my body was just like almost convulsing. And I was like, I think I was screaming a little bit. And she's kind of doing like a shy smile as she's saying it, like she's embarrassed. Combs' chief of staff, KK, tries to help Jane. And she does end up feeling better after a shower. And it seems like after that, Combs starts decreasing the amount of ecstasy that he's giving her. But
wait, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Chief of staff,
Christina Coram.
yes, was right there.
Yes.
She saw it. She helped her to take a shower.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot.
And now, do they stop giving her drugs? Or are they like, you really shouldn't do any drugs? No, she says that Combs just starts decreasing the amount of he starts giving her. She starts taking smaller doses, but her highs would still last 12 hours. Now, a lot of the jurors, they honestly start looking a little bored, but they start perking up more after this story of like the convulsing on the sand, because now they're like, oh, this is getting weird. Meanwhile, Jane looks really shy describing all these incidents, and Combs is just very intensely pinching the chin hairs with his right hand, staring at Jane. It's like a very, very scary Santa Claus. Now, side note, the Combs sons are in and out of the courtroom throughout the week that Jane is testifying. Like I said, one day it's just Justin. The next day it's all three of them. Sometimes just Justin and Christian, which, side note, they don't appear to be having the worst time with Jane's testimony, or in fact, the entirety of the trial. They are constantly passing notes to each other, smiling. It is a running comment at Rotten Mango that we are more stressed about this trial than some of the Combs sons, or some of the friends and family in the pews. If it were any other case, that would be an insane and perhaps unacceptable thing to say, but genuinely, their Instagram stories, like their thirst traps before court vibes, I just don't even know how that they can do that. I don't understand it. The way that they're mostly in their own little passing notes high school bubble in the pews, I am convinced that everyone in the press pews, everyone in the public pews is more exhausted from this trial than the sons. So at one point during Jane's testimony, a court officer, so not Officer Riz, right? They walk over to motion for Combs's bestie to wake up because he's asleep. Another day, Quincy comes in. He spends a good chunk of the day just twirling a red pen in his hand, and at some points he will slip it inside his long sleeve and itch his arm with it. This is a paid advertisement. You guys have heard my take on the trial. Now let's hear from a legal expert. Dan Morgan is a partner at Morgan & Morgan, and he's got some fascinating insights. He says, quote, one of the biggest surprises is how cautiously his legal team is playing it. Because a lot of people have described the case as, quote, a minefield for due process violations. And yet, according to Dan, quote, so far, we haven't seen the kind of sustained objections, motions for mistrials, or voir dire challenges that typically preserve those rights. Dan's legal recommendation is, in a case this explosive, you fight every inch of procedural ground, because if you don't, you're handing the appellate court a cold record and hoping for mercy. That is the kind of seasoned perspective you'd expect to find at Morgan & Morgan. With over 100,000 lawyers and more than 35 years of experience, they've recovered more than $25 billion for over 500,000 people, and not big fancy companies or people with tons of connections. Morgan & Morgan fights for the everyday person, similar to you and me. With Morgan & Morgan, it's easy to get started, and their fee is free unless they win. Just click the link in the description below or visit forthepeople.com/rotten. That's forthepeople.com/rotten, or click the link in the description below. During the vacation, Jane opens up that she's a single mom. She's working as a content creator, influencer, and because she couldn't work while on this trip, he ends up giving her $10,000 in cash at the end of the trip. After the end of that trip, how did you feel about Sean? I was even deeper in my feelings for Sean. I want to say we even started using the L word, and I was really deep in it. I really fell head over heels for him.
This is February 20...
This is, yes, February of 2021.
Right, so they met in January. This is February, right?
So they actually met in 2020. But she went to Miami for the first time in January of 2021. They went on Turks and Caicos February of 2021.
Got it.
So this is all happening like years before the lawsuit. And she just sounds so in love with this man. Even the way she says, we started using the L word instead of saying, like, we started saying we love each other. It just feels like a girl that's head over heels. Meanwhile, Combs is not even focusing. The sketch artist behind him will cough, and he quite literally turns around back and looks at her like, excuse you. In 2021, Jane moves to LA to be closer to Combs on the West Coast. Combs gives her $6,000 for a moving truck. She says, I just remember he was so sweet. He would give me money here and there. So for the beginning of Jane's testimony, Combs starts slowly looking less bothered, but that's about to change very soon. Jane and Combs had freak-offs, but they called them either debauchery or hotel nights. Jane says, I learned so many things. I learned how he liked to have playing. I learned how he preferred me to dress, and I just learned the things that he likes sexually. He preferred me to dress in provocative lingerie and really high, like, stripper heels. She would have to be in lingerie and stripper shoes for 12 to 24 hours at a time whilst high on drugs, whilst having intimate relations with Combs. He would have her rub baby oil all over herself. And what did Sean tell you to do with it? To just have it all over my body and his body? The interesting thing is, Combs is looking at Maureen Comey with this look of like, how dare you ask such personal questions? It's very uncouth of you. Sometimes the way he looks at her, you would think that she's asking these questions in church. In the beginning, Jane says that she loved all of her intimate moments with Combs. It was just her and Combs. We would have the red lights on. I loved them. I really loved my partner. And I was just making love with my partner like the whole time, and lots of affection and kisses and love making, and it was really wonderful. I felt like Sean was really passionate, and he brought out a lot of passion out of me, and the way he would compliment me and be so into me and just really like enjoying one another, like it just made me feel really good inside. So that's kind of the tone that she uses. But a few months after the Turks vacation, so this is like mid 2021, Jane says, she takes a deep breath and she says, I remember that just when we would watch, we started having a lot more of fantasy conversation, and she starts sobbing.
Oh.
Like, she hasn't even talked about what the conversation is, but clearly it's getting her so emotional. Do you need to take a break, Jane? No. Who initiated the fantasy conversation you're describing? Sean. And can you explain to us how he initiated that conversation? Just we would search specific things on websites, and just in the middle of it being high, he just really wanted me to fantasize or kind of talk about other men and this type of role play about other men. Jane starts dabbing her eyes with the tissue. She's like full on crying. And you said that he would want you to talk about other men. What did he tell you that he wanted you to say about these other men? It was more like a question like, do you like what you see there? Do you like that? Do you want that? Can you imagine that? Pretend that that's here and I'm that person. She says the very first night he brings this up with her, they've already been high on a mix of and ecstasy. They've been awake for 24 hours. And by this point, the past 12 hours, they've been watching videos and having intimate relations. And quote, he started saying that I can make this fantasy a reality. If you'd like to have that happen, I can make that happen. Because it just seemed like he wanted that and it was turning him on, and I was really into my partner, and I said, okay. Jane still is thinking maybe it's just a fantasy. I mean, she's just going along with it. She excuses herself to the bathroom, and by the time she comes out, Combs is in a robe, very serious, like very intently looking at his phone. He's like, we can make that happen tonight. Jane is like, tonight? Like, okay. I was taken aback, a bit surprised, but like, okay, because my partner was excited and it was already happening, and this was just something that we were gonna do. Instantly, Combs is calling his assistants. They're starting to get a hotel ready in Miami for them. At this point, Mark Agnifilo is also leaning so far to the left to watch Comey during her direct that he looks like, and I don't mean this to be comical in any sort of the word, because I tried to find a different comparable like meme or something that could depict exactly what we're seeing. But you know that damn meme where the two guys are like leaning to the side and it says like damn? Like he's leaned that far to the side. And sometimes Sean Combs will lean with him, so it literally looks like that damn meme.
Why are they leaning? Because like they're
on the same line as Maureen Comey. Maureen Comey is literally to their right. And they just like want to stare at her. I also think that they want to stare at the jurors behind her. He's captivated. The jurors are also taking notes, and she says Combs tells her everything's going to be fine. Once they get to the hotel, he just told me that there's somebody coming and just to relax and that this would be something fun. And he knows the guy and he's a really nice guy, and I was just super nervous and just listening to him. The guy ends up showing up. Combs and the guy are in the living room of this hotel suite. Jane is anxious. She's waiting in the bedroom. She says, I remember I was in the room by myself for a little bit, and then he walks out and greets the guy, and I can hear them talking, and he called me outside. I was wearing lingerie underneath a robe. I was wearing the big stripper heels. I was high. She walks outside, sees the entertainer. She doesn't really know what to do, so she just kind of sits awkwardly on the couch. Presumably, she looks very tense. She said her arms were crossed, her legs were crossed, and Combs is just telling her to relax. Sean was like, just stand up. And so I stood up, and I started to just kind of dance, just to kind of get my nerves away. And in the courtroom, she's very emotional as she's talking about this. Her voice is getting soft, and she's describing how Don is trying to make her comfortable. Don is the entertainer. And what was Sean doing while you and Don started touching each other? He was watching and touching himself. Then they escalate to oral activities, which ends up taking a really long time. About how long did that last? Quite a while. And what was Sean doing in the meantime? Watching, talking. I remember he was like in a positive mood, just like being very encouraging and sweet. Jane has a similar reaction to Cassie to all of this, which is, let's just speed things up. Let's just get this over with because we're already here. Let's just get it over with. But Combs gets upset with her and she asks for protection. Jane's tearing up. Janice Combs' mom, just like walking in a fringe jacket, double layered fringe jacket. It feels like a very festive jacket. She's wearing sunglasses, and like this courtroom is such a weird mix of energies all the time. It's so hard to digest. And Jane's just up there crying. Jane says after she had intimate relations with Don, quote, we were in a really good mood. And
Don?
Yes, the entertainer.
Oh.
So she's like having intimate reactions. And then, we were in a really good mood and we just started making love. Now she's making love with Sean. And he was really, really happy. She says the first night she felt really exhilarated. I felt that I had did something done something that I had never done before. I felt excited. I was happy. It was taboo. It was fun. I had a good time with my partner. But ultimately, she's thinking this is just a one-night thing where they do something absolutely crazy and taboo. It's fun. Like maybe it's a 2 times a year for his birthday and Christmas type of thing. She did not think that they would really do it at a high frequency. However, it starts dawning on her. She said, after that night, I truly felt that night had just opened like a Pandora's box in our relationship. It completely set the tone for our relationship moving forward. What do you mean by opening a Pandora's box? I meant that it was just a door that like I was unable to shut for the remainder of the relationship. Because after that first time, which she really wasn't even prepared for, just spawned out of nowhere, anytime she would see Combs, it's like a hotel night was already in the works. And if she just wants to have intimate time with just her and Sean Combs, it just doesn't happen. On one occasion, she recalls Combs inviting her to New York City, and she tells him she doesn't want to go because she feels like he's gonna set her up with somebody, it's gonna be another hotel night, and she would just rather not do that. And he's telling her, no, it's gonna be romantic. It's gonna be you and me, one-on-one, intimate time. So Jane agrees. She flies to New York. She says, I was really excited. I trusted those words, and I went to New York. And on my flight is when he says, do you want entertainment tonight? And I just felt really disappointed. I felt like the high of seeing my lover was just like shot down. I just felt this like heaviness, like damn. And she starts sobbing. I'm sorry. I felt this weight over me. Like I felt like a balloon popped. She's already on the plane. She lands in New York. He has gifts waiting for her, and he's gonna take her to dinner. And at this point, it's already 3 a.m. It doesn't feel romantic. She's waiting for him in the car right outside the hotel. He hasn't been talking about the hotel night, so she's thinking, okay, maybe he forgot. He's talking to his entourage outside the hotel. Like she's in the car, he's like at the entrance of the hotel talking to his entourage, maybe security staff, maybe assistants, I don't know, for 40 minutes. And she ends up taking a picture from inside the car while she's waiting for him. And she said it was just kind of funny how obvious the red lights were. Because I guess she could see their hotel room and the red lights were on.
No. So he took a photo
She
of
did.
Or she took a photo of Sean, but in the photo you see the red light. And she didn't realize that.
She did. That's why she took the photo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she realizes that the assistants are setting up for a hotel night. They go to the lounge, they grab food, and she just says they start bickering. I was bickering about just how I was done with this and I didn't want to do this and like why every time I see you like this is happening and something along those lines. And I just remember he was like super defensive and saying, we don't have to do any of this stuff. I don't need to do any of this and we don't have to do this at all, and just very defensive. She tells Combs that she doesn't want any more hotel nights, which he agrees. He's like, yeah, okay, fine, you don't have to. But quote, I was just listening, but in my heart, I just knew that he didn't mean that. What makes you say that? Because it still happened that night? So on the way back to the hotel room, he gives her an ecstasy pill. They get to the hotel and there's a man, and no matter what Jane tries, she just cannot get into it. So she tells Combs on the side, and she's like, there's no chemistry. It's not going to work. He just appears agitated, according to Jane, and it's like he begrudgingly accepts it. End quote. Then at that point, it's just me and Sean, and we're just together, and he's kind of like, I can't wait to see what you have for me next. Or what would make this better? Or what would we do? What surprises do you have for me? And
Sean is saying that to her.
After they kick that guy out. And in that moment, I just wanted to make it up to him and that he wasn't going to have like this night that he envisioned. And so I messaged Cabral. Cabral is a different entertainer that they frequently use. Side note, he's an adult video star. He's also from Atlanta, so they're flying him, which is part of the charges, cross state lines. Why did you feel like you needed to make it up to him if just...
They're flying the dude out that right then and there?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like freaking 4 a.m., 5 a.m.?
Yeah. Why did you feel like you needed to make it up to him if just earlier that night you told him you don't want to do these nights anymore and Sean said you don't have to? Jane pauses for a really long time, and it just feels like she did not prepare for this question. And she says, that's a really hard question to answer. I just knew that's what would make my partner the happiest, and I just wanted to give him what he wanted, and I wanted to make him happy, and I wanted to just have a good upbeat night with him. But even more interesting is that a few weeks prior to Jane testifying, a different man was on the stand. And he was just describing how hotels actually know a lot more about us than we think. So if you stay in especially a more upscale hotel like the Le Meritage in Beverly Hills, They want to know what kind of hotel guest you are so that they can anticipate your needs. They can over deliver and you will continue to stay with them. You will stay loyal to them. Some high-end hotels, there are reports online that they will actually track guests' movements and behavior patterns through their connection to the Wi-Fi. So when hotel guests connect to the hotel Wi-Fi, they will start tracking which floor you're on, how often you use the hotel lobby, how often you're at the bar, how often you're at the pool, just to see how you move about. Are you someone that stays in the hotel room more frequently, or do you leave all day long and you just come home to sleep?
What? First of all,
yeah.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Second of all, what are they doing with my location in this hotel?
I don't know. I guess they're just trying to anticipate the flow of humans in the hotel.
What?
I don't think they know like what you're doing in your room or where in the room you are, but it just kind of shows as you're moving if you're connected to the hotel Wi-Fi. Now, there's a lot that hotels know about their guests, and Frederick Zamore is the general manager at the Le Meritage Beverly Hills Hotel. He is subpoenaed by the government to fly to New York City from Los Angeles to testify in the USA v. Sean Combs case. And the Le Meritage has a very interesting profile on Sean Combs. So a few notes for the front desk. He says there is an American Express card on file. They have dates for times when the hotel provided amenities like a bowl of fruit, chocolates, and water. They keep note of that. Another thing is the note reads, please only reserve entry-level rooms for Sean Combs, which is puzzling because this guy's a billionaire. Why would you only reserve entry? I would say reserve only top-of-the-line, most expensive suites because he can afford it. The next part of his guest profile, however, reads, always spills candle wax on everything and uses excessive amounts of oil. Place room out of order upon departure for deep cleaning. Please authorize an extra $1,000 when guest stays with us to cover any room damages. With a detailed incident report from January 2010 when Sean Combs was staying in room 804. Housekeeping had gone into the room and noticed large deposits of candle wax on the carpets in the living room area and on the nightstands. Then another note, please monitor outside his room, down the hall to spray air freshener. Likes the room hot, sets thermostat to 75 degrees. Frederick Zamore is in the courtroom for like a solid 20 minutes. There's no cross-examination. And this was a while back, but everyone remembers the name, the La Hermitage Hotel, because everyone was having a hard time saying the name of the hotel. Jane is now on the stand weeks later, and she states that she has been in the La Hermitage Hotel for what Combs called a sobriety party. Combs wanted to get sober, and he just wanted to do this one big party, like a big binge right before, which I don't know about the logic on that, but nevertheless, Jane says the night of the sobriety party, she doesn't use drugs, but she believes that Sean Combs was doing ecstasy and cocaine, and this sobriety party turns into a hotel night. I just remember that it was like this typical routine, except I didn't take anything, and I was in an outfit, and I was with Sean, and the room was decorated, and I was just getting ready, and I remember it was like the first guy, then a second guy, and then after the second guy, I just went into the bathroom, and I wasn't feeling well. So she rushes into the hotel bathroom and throws up. Sean walks in, and the whole thing the defense is trying to say is this is not sex trafficking because everybody here is a consenting adult in an adult relationship. They're all girlfriends, basically. And I'm not saying that this action alone is against the law, but let's say a woman's boyfriend walks in on her in the bathroom throwing up. Picture the normal response. This is Sean Combs' response. Jane says, I told him that I had just thrown up, and he was like, that's good then. You'll feel better now that you've thrown up. So let's go. Let's go because the third guy is here.
The third guy is here, meaning there are two dudes in the room already.
No. So she had one entertainer. They had intimate relations in front of Sean Combs. And then after he left, a second entertainer came. And now it's the third guy back to back, and she's clearly feeling unwell. Jane starts getting more emotional, like she can barely even finish sharing this story. I hated it so much. I was just disgusted. A few of the jurors, they glance at Combs. I was just so repulsed. I was just so mad at myself for doing that. I just deeply regretted that. She says that she felt absolutely terrible after this party, and as Jane is still crying, Comey brings up a thread of text messages. Now, keep in mind, one big part of direct examination is to bring in evidence that the defense is going to bring in during cross, because remember, we were so upset about the whole Intercontinental Hotel lawsuit that came up at the cross for Cassie.
Yep.
It's just annoying because you want to hear it from Cassie herself, and I do think there is this feeling of if something comes up in the cross-examination, it feels like you're caught in a lie.
Yeah.
even if it's not that serious.
Yeah, like you're trying to hide it or something.
Yeah, like if it's not a lie, then why are you hiding it? It just, the line of questioning is aggressive. It's antagonistic. So it's good to bring it up during direct, which is exactly what Comey does. Because after the sobriety party, there is a text from Jane to Combs that reads, "Baby, good morning. I love you. Hope you're having a great day so far. Do you think you can put something in my account, please? There's a few things I needed and wanted. Thank you, baby." A few of the jurors have their brows furrowed. I mean, they're staring at this message because it seems like they're taken aback by this type of message after that kind of testimony. And Comey asks, "And what did Sean respond?" "No."
Really?
Yeah. She later texts, "Can you make sure that you can put something in my account, please? You have me feeling a little crazy and feeling used, like I got tricked into a party and you're not communicating." The government is arguing that Combs engaged in sex trafficking by using force, fraud, and coercion. The defense is arguing that Combs and all the women they were engaged in these activities with, and they were all consenting adults, and that some of these women, they were getting something out of these activities. Now, it's up to the jurors to decide, but this is what Jane says about her experience about these hotel nights. "It's like a Pandora's box. She thought it was one time, and now it's 90% of the time. She said that it took up her entire life, and there's so many similarities to Cassie's testimony. She says that she would have to maintain proper childcare. She always looked put together and ready for whenever Combs would call her. She had to make sure her nails were done, her hair was done, her tan, her glam. And she says, I just liked being beautiful for Sean, and I know he liked me looking beautiful for him. He liked having my hair straight, or when it was time for us to be together intimately, he liked my hair in a ponytail. He wanted me to have light-colored nails, mostly like a creamy white. And later in our relationship, he was wanting me to get piercings." "Where did Sean tell you he wanted you to get piercings?" "My nipples." Combs starts twirling his pen against his lip like a joint. Which, side note about the piercing, he tells her this is what he wants from his girl and this is what turns him on. Then he has his chief of staff, KK, apparently help set up the appointment for her to get the piercing done. And she describes getting it done felt like a rodent had bit her really hard there. And she kept those in for about a year until they, quote, they snagged on some of the outfits and they bled and got infected. So she naturally takes them out. But Sean Combs is upset about this. He was okay with it at first, but then I could tell he was getting impatient with how long it was taking me to put them back in. So with this conversation, again, Combs is just sitting there stroking his chin hairs. At this point, it looks like he's watching the 5 o'clock news about inflation. Like this has nothing to do with him. He's got such a nonchalant demeanor. And it's so interesting because even the jurors seem like they're getting less and less engaged with the testimony. It seems like they're almost to the point where they are desensitized to the conversation of freak-offs and hotel nights.
And this is day 1, day 2 of the direct?
This is around day 1 and day 2.
Okay, and you can tell the jurors are getting less and less
they will perk up at certain points, like when certain names come up, like the L'Hermitage Hotel, because I think it's like an Easter egg feeling is how my researcher describes it. Because we're looking for ways to describe, it's like, oh, I've heard that before. Yeah. Oh, maybe we're about to connect some dots. But they just look a little less engaged. There's not particularly as much smirking as there was with Mia's testimony, but they just some of them look like they're not resonating with this story. Meanwhile, Jane is telling this slightly unengaged jury. He would say things like, where are my piercings? Where are my piercings? This is the last time I see you when you don't have any piercings on. She says she didn't even really have much time to spend with her friends anymore. Just looking nice started taking up most of the time in her life, like every day. But it's all because, quote, I would say when I was with Sean, I was really consumed by him. I was really consumed by Sean. Meanwhile, Combs is glancing back at the clock, which is behind the press pews at the end of the courtroom. Like, where do you have to be right now, sir? I don't understand. Jane says the hotel rooms were almost always decorated and fixed before they arrived, with bed sheets covering everything, all the furniture, blankets, towels, and in a hotel night, they would go through like 24 or more bottles of baby oil. Diddy goes,
24
yeah, 24.
24 baby oils.
Yes.
Wow.
Diddy goes into his full businessman pose, legs crossed, right arm on the armchair rest, 2 fingers touching and pinching his chin hairs. He's doing this. He makes eye contact with Mark Agnifilo, who's sitting to his right, and then instantly he puts his arm down. I'm not sure if that's a sign from Mark or if he just wants to naturally change his position, but it reminds me of like if you're shaking your leg and your parents snap a look at you and you stop. That was the vibe it was giving. However, there are way bigger things that Combs has to worry about because Jane starts testifying that the entertainers would be instructed by Combs to finish their actions just right outside of her private parts. And that is when Jane and Combs would start making, quote, love. Combs cocks his chin all the way up. Would you clean up the substance in between? No. Combs stares at Comey, cocks his head to the left, and it feels like he's trying to show the jurors that he's not embarrassed. In a single hotel night, sometimes it would happen more than once with one person and then maybe more than once with another person. In total, how long did a typical hotel night last? Like 24 to 30 hours or more? All the while, she's high on ecstasy that Combs provides, and she does state that the longest time was 3.5 days. She stayed awake through a combination of, quote, I would take ecstasy, I would drink caffeine, I would just try to drink water, I would just try to order myself smoothies or protein shakes. She says that she was not allowed to sleep at all during that time. Sometimes she would be told by him to hold the same position for hours, like the same position during intimate activities for hours. She would have to wear professional stripper heels for hours the entire time. She says, I just remember my feet being really sticky and oily, and then I would just try to remain balanced in my steps, but maybe a couple times I've slipped, yeah. At this point, interestingly enough, it's like every time Jane responds to a question while she's talking, Combs slightly lifts his chin up and looks down at her. And then when she's done responding, his chin also goes back down. Jane says that she would listen to all of Combs's instructions during the hotel nights, quote, on command, even if that meant that she would have to suffer from UTIs, yeast infections. She said that she had a UTI almost every week, and it just felt like this burning, constant urination. It was the worst. She would get treated with antibiotics. She would be sore everywhere, all the time, but she never really told Combs about it because, quote, I just didn't want to indicate like any negativity. Combs is looking straight at Jane and Prosecutor Comey. Jane does not look back at him, but it does seem like he's not as calm as he tries to be perceived. A few things stand out. So, for example, the very first break during Jane's testimony, Combs practically jumps out of his chair, places both of his hands on his chest, and does like this weird back stretch. And he does a lot of these like uncomfortable stretches during really weird moments of the trial. And it's usually when it's a very important witness. Like, remember Mia, he was doing those weird fist bumps, shoulder stretches, puffing out his chest. And then at other moments, Combs is just staring down Maureen Comey. It is so clear Sean Combs does not like any of the prosecutors. Whenever one of them stutters, whenever one of them gets an objection sustained, he looks at them with such disdain. He looks at them like, are you okay? He will just give them such a specific stare. The best way to describe it is like if you hate someone and they get in trouble and you just look at them like, oh, you're such a mess. Like, that's the vibe. And it's not just the prosecutors he's doing this to. There's one time when the jurors are not in the room, the attorneys are all arguing about something, and Mark Agnifilo asks the judge, Your Honor, I apologize, can we have a quick bathroom break? So it's the attorneys arguing, and it's clear that Mark Agnifilo is asking on behalf of Sean Combs. So the judge says, to be honest, yes, if someone is not addressing an issue and you would want to take a break, you should do so, Mr. And he's about to address Mr. Combs. Like, Mr. Combs, if you need to go, feel free to go. Combs doesn't even acknowledge the judge, just gets up mid-sentence that the judge is saying that, does not respond, does not nod, nothing, and he just starts leaving with the U.S. Marshals. The judge even says, there you go, okay, and moves on.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm
really?
like...
He's not... What?
And this is so crazy to me because if Combs is convicted, like, he genuinely feels so much confidence that he's not going to get convicted, because if he's convicted, Father Arun is the one deciding the sentence.
Wait, that's so interesting because he's always super attentive to the jurors, right?
Yes.
He's always playing up these kind of gestures versus to the judge, he's not like showing any of that. Like,
no.
He's different. You know, even the defense attorneys are always like, Your Honor, Your Honor, Your Honor.
Yeah. I don't think he likes the judge being in charge. I think he's also very butthurt that the judge yelled at him about nodding at the jurors. I really do not think that he can stand another man being in charge of him.
Interesting.
Yeah, because even if the jurors leave, when he talks to the judge directly, he'll try to make jokes. There's one time where, Alexandra Shapiro is like, we're going to waive the right to something. Like they're trying to get their way and they're like, if anything happens, we'll waive our right to an appeal based off of this. It was on like one of the jurors they were trying to dismiss. And then the judge is just trying to confirm with Mr. Combs and he starts waving and he says, we waive it.
Judge is doing that?
No, Combs.
Oh.
So like when he's directly talking to the judge, it seems like he tries a little bit to be charismatic, but otherwise he does not care. There are times when the jurors are dismissed for the day, the attorneys are fighting about stuff. Combs will slouch all the way in his chair and lean his head up against the chair on back.
So you're saying the moment that the jurors left, he's like, switch.
Yeah, he's like, whatever.
Huh, fascinating.
Yeah, and I'm like, Father Arun is going to be the one sentencing you if you're convicted. So I don't know what kind of energy that is. I don't know. It's just weird. Now, to be fair, though, I guess Combs is very consistent. He looks at the prosecutors like that. He looks at the judge like that. Sometimes he looks at his own defense team like that. So he just like hates everyone sometimes.
Except the jurors.
Except for the jurors. Now, Jane testifies that it would just be difficult for her to be able to get the entertainers to even wear protection because Combs would guilt trip her. He says, quote, he didn't want to see it, like rubber when he was watching. And she's like hesitating because it seems like she doesn't want to talk about these things. Now, the prosecutors bring into evidence an audio recording of Jane and Combs and an entertainer. The camera was set up to film the hotel night, but Jane and Dawn, the entertainer, are looking for protection in the room. Now, just to clarify, the courtroom mainly just hears a lot of static, but the jurors get a transcript of the audio note, which the gallery does not. But while it's playing, Jane is mainly looking down with no emotion, and Combs is studying the hell out of the screen and listening to it in like a little huddle with Tenny and Mark, and their heads are all pressed together at this point. Now, Janice, Combs' mom, is just staring straight ahead, eyes closed. Combs' bestie in the pew, his head is drooped, his eyes are closed. It's unclear if he's sleeping or depriving himself from the sense of sight so that he can enhance his hearing abilities. Meanwhile, the jurors are frozen. A lot of them are paying attention. They've got their eyebrows raised because in the audio clip, Combs tells Jane that she was, quote, just taking that D.
Combs is telling Jane, just take that D.
No, you were just taking that D, meaning it's already happened without protection, so why are you complaining now? Combs goes on to say, if you don't touch yourself right now, Jane gets very emotional, and she says she understood it as, my request is just going to get denied, so just move on from this request. Why did you feel the need to get permission from Sean to have the man who was having intimate relations with your body to wear a condom? Her voice starts breaking, and she pauses for a really long time before she says, I don't know. I'm just still trying to process even that. Jane later says, perhaps this is the reason, quote, I just didn't want to disappoint my lover. And I do kind of love Maureen Comey for this because she asks on multiple occasions why the entertainer's bodily fluids were not cleaned off her body before she and Sean were intimate. And each time this line of questioning appears, Combs tries to make his body bigger. He'll stretch his chin up and look down at Jane. He'll look straight at Maureen Comey and the jurors. But Jane continues that Combs would like for her to just play around with it and have it everywhere. She says after that, she would have to shower and get ready for the next entertainer. Jane starts to cry and get emotional. And it's interesting because some of the jurors, they look away from Jane when she starts getting too emotional. And it doesn't look like, I don't want to see this anymore. It feels so human. Like, I feel like we should give her some privacy because she's so emotional. Like, it feels too intimate to be staring her down.
Yeah.
Combs, on the other hand, he's staring her down. He will crane his neck to watch her cry. She says that if she was getting tired, she would try to give subtle cues that she's tired, saying things like she was hungry or, quote, I would lay down, or I would give him kind of like little faces. But it didn't matter because he would sense it and say things like, you're not getting tired on me, are you? Let's finish strong. Let's end on a high note. Comey asks Jane, why didn't you just say that you were done and you wanted to stop? And she just starts sobbing. And there are points where she sobs so hard, it's like waves on her body, and she'll try to talk, but she lets out what other people have described as like very animalistic noises, which is kind of a weird way of describing it, but in the sense of like, they're not like normal cries. Like you're trying to hold it in, but you can't even help it. They just blurt out of you. It's almost like an exhale scream. Like she can't even help it. And she says, I just don't know. I don't know. She says that after hotel nights, she feels, I would feel really happy to end my night with Sean, but I would really fight to block out just like how sad I felt after. She also explains afterwards when they get that quality time together, they would spend time like a real relationship, kind of. She thought maybe they'd go on a date after a hotel night because that's what he would always promise her. But instead of these romantic dates, she said that she would follow Sean Combs back to his residence. Quote, I would make sure he was like showered and clean, and I would cook for him, I would massage him, I would put on his favorite show, and then I would finally get to cuddle with him and sleep with him. Side note, this man's favorite show is Dateline, which is a true crime series on NBC, which Jane talks about, and Dateline actually did a video on Diddy. They did an episode on Diddy, but it has since been taken down off of most platforms. And it's not because Jane is like, yeah, his favorite show is Dateline, so they thought, let's take it down. It's because Combs filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit against NBC and Peacock for a separate documentary that they did on him, Diddy, the Making of a Bad Boy. So that Dateline video is very hard to find.
Wait, he loves to watch Dateline, which
Yes.
like he loves true crime.
Yes.
And they made a video on him after the
Yes.
Cassie lawsuit. And then he filed for...
Yes. They also made a documentary, the Diddy, Making of a Bad Boy.
And he sued them.
Yes. For $100 million. And like, while I do think that defamation lawsuits are legitimate, and it's very serious with the day and age of the internet, people can go online and say all sorts of crazy things about public figures. However, I always find it so fascinating when defendants that are accused of really heinous crimes are suing people for large sums of money for defamation. I just think it's an interesting way that the world works. It's just weird. It always makes me go, oh, that's weird. Just saying. Now, another incident Jane distinctively remembers, this is back in 2021. She says, I remember Sean said that he had someone coming over and he invited this man over, and honestly, I was like immediately repulsed by him. Jane is repulsed by this entertainer. Do you remember where you were? I was on the bed. I was in the hotel room. I just remember that he was really sweaty, and I just thought he didn't look nice and that he kind of smelled. And I just remember I was very hesitant with him. I just kind of tried to make it work. I tried to kind of seduce him and like with my body and try to, I don't know, just make some sort of attraction happen, and it just wasn't. Like, I just remember him sweating so much, and I was kind of throwing looks at my partner like I wasn't